Hello everyone. Today let's talk about platyzoans. Almost all bilaterian animals belong to one of two clades, the protostomes and the deuterostomes. These clades differ in how they develop embryologically. In protostomes, the mouth of the adult animal develops from the blastopore or from an opening near it, whereas in deuterostomes, the blastopore gives rise to the anus and the mouth develops in another way. The great majority of all animal species are protostomes, including insects, mollusks, worms, and many others. All protostomes belong to either the Spiralia or the Ecdysozoa. Before discussing the diversity of protostomes, I'll briefly review the characteristics of these groups. Spiralians develop as embryos using spiral cleavage. Most live in water and move through it using cilia or contractions of the body musculature. The two clades of spiralians are Platyzoans and Lophotrochozoans. The most prominent group of platyzoans is the flatworms, animals that have a simple body with no circulatory or respiratory system, but a complex reproductive system. This group includes marine and freshwater planarians, as well as the parasitic flukes and tapeworms. Lophotrochozoan consists of two major phyla and several smaller ones. Many of the animals have a type of free-living larva known as a trochophore, and some have a feeding structure termed a lophophore, a horseshoe-shaped crown of ciliated tentacles around the mouth used in filter feeding. The phyla characterized by a lophophore are Bryozoa and Brachiopoda. Lophophorate animals are sessile. Among the Lophotrochozoans with a trochophore are phyla Mollusca and Annelida. Mollusks are unsegmented and their coelom is reduced to a hemocoel and some other small body spaces. This phylum includes animals as diverse as octopuses, snails, and clams. Annelids are segmented coelomate worms, the most familiar of which is the earthworm, but also includes leeches and largely marine polychaetes. The other major clade of protostomes is the Ecdysozoa, which contains animals that mold. When an animal grows large enough that it completely fills its hard external skeleton, it must lose that skeleton by molting, a process also called ecdysis, hence the name Ecdysozoa. While the animal grows, it forms a new exoskeleton underneath the existing one. The first step in molting is for the body to swell until the existing exoskeleton cracks open and is shed. Upon molting that skeleton, the animal inflates the soft, new one, expanding it using body fluids. When the new one hardens, it is larger than the molted one had been, and has room for growth. Thus, rather than being continuous, as in other animals, the growth of ecdysozoans is stepwise. The Ecdysozoa contains the arthropods, which contains more species than any other phylum, and nematodes. The phylum Platyhelminthes consists of some 20,000 species. These ciliated, soft-bodied animals are flattened dorsoventrally, the anatomy that gives them the name flatworms. Flatworm bodies are solid aside from an incomplete digestive cavity. Although among the morphologically simplest of bilaterally symmetrical animals, they have some complex structures, like their reproductive apparatus, and they have the most complex life cycles among animals. Free-living flatworms occur in a wide variety of marine, freshwater, and even moist terrestrial habitats. They are carnivores and scavengers, eating small animals and bits of organic debris. They move around by means of ciliated epithelial cells, which are particularly concentrated on their ventral surfaces, but they also have well-developed musculature. By contrast, many species of flatworms are parasitic, living inside the bodies of other animals. Flatworms range in length from 1 millimeter or less to many meters. Most flatworms have only a single opening for their digestive cavity, a mouth located on the bottom side of the animal at mid-body. A flatworm ingests its food and tears it into small bits using muscular contractions in the upper end of the gut, the pharynx. Like sponges, cnidarians, and ctenophores, a flatworm lacks a circulatory system for the transport of oxygen and food molecules. The thin body of a flatworm allows gas to diffuse between its cells and the surrounding environment. Branches of the gut extend throughout the body, so the gut functions in both digestion and distribution of food. Cells that line the gut engulf most of the food particles by phagocytosis and digest them. Unlike cnidarians, flatworms have an excretory system, which consists of a network of fine tubules that run throughout the body. Bulb-like flame cells, so named because of the flickering movements of the flagella beating inside them, are located on the side branches of the tubules. Flagella in the flame cells move water and excretory substances into the tubules and then to pore located between the epidermal cells through which the liquid is expelled. Flame cells primarily regulate water balance of the organism. The excretory function appears to be secondary, and much of the metabolic waste of a flatworm diffuses into the gut and is eliminated through the mouth. The flatworm nervous system is composed of an anterior cerebral ganglia and nerve cords that runs down the body, with cross connections that give it a ladder-like shape. Eye spots, inverted, pigmented cups, which contain light-sensitive cells connected to the nervous system, enable a worm to distinguish light from dark. The reproductive systems of flatworms are complex. Most are hermaphroditic, each individual containing both male and female sexual structures. In many members of flatworms, copulation is required between two individuals, and fertilization is internal, each partner depositing sperm in the copulatory sac of the other. The sperm travel along special tubes to reach the eggs. In most freshwater flatworms, fertilized eggs are laid in cocoons strung in ribbons and hatch into miniature adults. In contrast, some marine species develop indirectly, the fertilized egg undergoing spiral cleavage and the embryo giving rise to a larva that swims or drifts until metamorphosis, when it settles in an appropriate habitat. Flatworms are known for their regenerative capacity. When a single individual of some species is divided into 2 or more parts, an entirely new flatworm can regrow what is missing from each bit. The more than 10,000 named species of flatworms range in length from less than 1 millimeter to more than 8 centimeters. Flukes attach themselves within the bodies of their hosts by means of suckers, anchors, or hooks. A fluke takes in food through its mouth, like its free-living relatives. The life cycle of some species involves only one host, usually a fish, but the life cycle of most flukes involves 2 or more hosts. The first intermediate host is almost always a snail, and the final host is almost always a vertebrate. This species, especially common in Asia, is an example of a flatworm that parasites humans, cats, dogs, and pigs, living in the bile duct of the liver. Each worm is 1 to 2 centimeters long and, like all flukes, has a complex life cycle. A fertilized egg containing a ciliated first-stage larva, the mycelium, is passed in the feces. If the larva reaches water, it may be ingested by an aquatic snail. Within the snail, the ciliated larva transforms into a sporocyst, a bag-like structure containing embryonic germ cells, each of which develops into a radia, an elongated, non-ciliated larva. Each of these larvae grows within the snail, then gives rise to several individuals of the next larval stage, the tadpole-like Cercaria. Cercariae escape into the water, where they swim about freely. When one encounters a fish, it bores into the muscles, loses its tail, and encysts, transforming into a metacercaria. If a human or other mammal eats raw fish containing metacercaria, the cyst dissolves in the intestine, and the young fluke migrates to the bile duct, where it matures, thereby completing the cycle. Even if infected fish is cooked, the parasite can be transmitted if metacercarian stick to cutting boards or the hands of a person handling the raw fish flesh are then ingested. An individual fluke may live for 15 to 30 years in the liver. A heavy infection of liver flukes may cause cirrhosis of the liver and death in humans. Protostomes are those animals in which the mouth forms from the blastopore during development. Protostomes are divided into spiralians characterized by spiral cleavage, and ecdysozoans which molt. Flatworms are compact, bilaterally symmetrical animals. Most have a blind digestive cavity with only one opening. They also have an excretory system consisting of flame cells within tubules that run throughout the body. Many are free-living, but some cause human diseases. The scolex of a tapeworm is not a head, but simply an anchoring device to hold the animal in the intestine where it acts as a parasite. That's it for now. Thanks for watching. See you next time.